You announced last week that you would be leaving Roseville High School after 8 years. How did this come about?
Well, there are a lot of changes that are happening in the district right now. Mr. Minetti is retiring as superintendent, and with his retirement, they named Mr. Severson as the new superintendent, and Mr. Severson was the assistant superintendent for personnel, so that opened up his position, and shortly thereafter they named Mr. Williams as the assistant superintendent for personnel services. So that opened up the director position. And I've been in education a long time. This is my 25th year, and 20 of those years have been at Roseville High School, either as a teacher or a coach, an assistant principal, or a principal. And I just felt it was time to start looking at my long-term goals. And one of my goals is to become a superintendent someday. And this is the next logical step. And so I applied and went through the interview process, and was told at the last board meeting, following the last board meeting, that they had selected me and offered me the position. And it's still not official. It's pending board approval, which should hopefully happen next week.
So now, you talked about being at Roseville High School for 20 years. You've been principal here for 8 of those years. Can you believe that you're going to be leaving Roseville in just a few months?
No. When you think about my career, I've always returned to Roseville High School. I started here as a teacher and taught science here at Roseville High School, and coached swimming, and was the student activities advisor, and did those sorts of things. And I had no idea I was even going to get into administration, and it just happened to be a position that was open. I was encouraged to apply, and I got it. And I was a dean of students for a couple of years. And then Granite Bay High School opened, which caused a need for an assistant principal over at Oakmont. I don't want to go into too much detail, but there was a position there, and they moved me over there. And so I spent 4 years as an assistant principal at Oakmont, but then when the opportunity opened up to come back to Roseville High School, I did. And then when I felt that I was ready to be a principal, opportunity opened up at Cooley Middle School. And so I applied for that, got that position, and that was my first year as a principal. Well, the next year, Mr. Montgomery gets promoted. There's an opportunity to come back and be a principal at Roseville High School, and I did that. And so it seems like I've always come back. And I grew up in the community. I'm a graduate of Oakmont High School, and I've been to a variety of schools, but I can tell you, I bleed orange and black. I've been a Tiger for so long, and it's difficult to believe that this won't be the place I'm showing up to work every day starting next year.
And what are some of your favorite memories? I mean, you must have certain times that stand out in your mind, either some good things or bad things over your last 8 years. Can you talk about some of that?
Well, my fondest memories are probably when I was a classroom teacher. I really enjoyed teaching, and enjoyed the personal connection that I had with my students, and I think that they learned a lot, and at the same time we had a lot of fun together, and I still keep in contact with a few of them, and so I do miss that piece, and that was probably some of my fondest memories. And at the same time I was student government advisor, and just you spend so many hours with students that are in student leadership, and I had some just incredible leaders, and they're all adults. They're all approaching 40 years old now, and but they're doing wonderful things in the community, and so that was wonderful. As principal, coming back here, some of my fondest memories, it's not the big events. I mean, I enjoy going to the games and seeing the big play and pulling out a win, and upsetting a school in terms of a surprise victory, or beating Wood Creek, our crosstown rival, or going to the playoffs. Those are all great things, but I think it's the daily interaction with students, just walking by and saying hi and having them say hi back, or a student feeling comfortable enough to come up to me and say, Mr. Basham, I need some help with this, and can you help me, and just seeing students grow, and some of my most challenging students when I was an assistant principal, I had some of the best relationships with, because over the 4 years that I had them when they started coming into my office as a freshman, by the time they graduated as a senior, it was a success. They had grown, they had matured, and there have been times I've had those same students say, you know, the only reason why I'm walking this stage is because you believed in me, you gave me a chance. And it's the individual victories that I think that I remember the most.
It's those relationships.
Yeah, those relationships. Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it. It's the same thing with teachers. In my role as principal, it's about the relationships with teachers, and it's about trusting in my teachers, my assistant principals, my counselors, to give them the opportunity to grow and to try new things. And there are a lot of accomplishments just in those 8 years that I'm very proud of.
And when some of those accomplishments?
Yeah, you know, when I first came here, I think that there was a feeling that Roseville High School kids weren't able to compete or to achieve at the same level as students at some of the other schools in the local area, and I never believed that. And I think that today Roseville High School is a much better place than it was 8 years ago in terms of just believing in ourselves, and that our students can be college and career ready and be competitive. And there are just a lot of things out there that point to that. And seeing our A to G completion rate go from the 30s to 72% of our graduates now meet A to G. That 61% of the students are taking at least one AP course. That we've tripled the size of our AP program. In that we're an avid national demonstration site, and there are only a couple hundred of those in the world. And that I was appointed to the Principal's Leadership Collaborative this last year with AVID, which says that the AVID Center wants to know more about what's happening here at Roseville High School, how we were able to grow that program so that we can share that with other schools. The Geometry and Construction Program and building homes for women and children in need, and having that relationship with Acres of Hope, and just seeing what Mr. Bailey and Mr. Maitanis have been able to do. And there's a number of those types of examples of teachers and departments and just doing great things on campus and giving them the opportunity to do those and trying to stay out of their way and just support them. And I think I've been able to do that. And I think at this course, the media production and the journalism program, being able to support Mr. Ritter, being able to support you and the students in your vision, just the growth that you guys have seen over the last 4 years, I'm proud of that. And I know I didn't have a lot to do with it, but I think I had a little bit to do with it. And those are the sorts of things I'm taking away.
And speaking of what you're proud of, and sitting here, you know, I'm sure you won't be able to fully think about everything that you've done until you have some time to think about it. But what do you think, looking back, you're going to be most proud of here at Roseville?
Oh boy, that is a difficult question. I'm hoping that it's the relationships more than anything. That when I leave, that the students, the parents, and the teachers and the other staff members, they won't be saying, "Oh boy, I'm happy he's gone." At the same time, I think they're going to look at it as an opportunity, which is what they should, and we'll get a great person in here. But that, Roseville High School did some great things under his leadership, and that's the only that's for the staff and the parents and the students to define whether or not I accomplished that. But just the relationships and that people feel that they were heard, they were trusted, that they grew while they were here, and that's what I would hope to take away from this. You
know, there were some tough times while you were principal here. The economy tanked. It gutted some of the budgets, the district budget, the state budget, and there was also program improvement from the No Child Left Behind Act. What were some of the toughest challenges you faced, do you think?
Well, certainly the economy was very difficult for the entire district, well, for education in California, period. And luckily, there's some great leadership at the district level, and school board, as well as the business department, and Mr. Minetti's leadership as well. And we were very conservative, and we tried to make cuts as far away from the classroom as we possibly could. And we all had to tighten our belts a little bit and work a little bit harder. And I think that we were still successful, and that students got a world-class education despite those budgetary cuts.
And are you confident that we're now in a better situation going forward?
Yes, I believe we are. I think we're in a better situation. I believe that we're going to see more money coming down to the schools, and it's going to be focused on closing the achievement gap. It's going to be focused on getting technology into the hands of the students, and that we're going to be able to grow as a school and as a district because of that. So certainly economy was part of it. Program improvement was also a challenge, and the reason for that was because the school became an open access, basically an open door for some families to choose to attend other schools. The IB programs at Granite Bay and Oakmont have also been a challenge because it gives students another option. So we've had to find ways to be competitive, and I think that there are some programs in place, such as the AVID program, the peer helping program, the geometry and construction program, have attracted students certainly. And then this last year, the freshman course of study, especially the pre-AP and geography and world cultures course, which is a challenging course, and it is our answer, I think, to what parents are looking for that are searching, that are considering the IB program. So that was certainly a challenge. There have been other challenges over time. When I was a student activities director and a classroom teacher, I had a student whose father was last victim of the Unabomber, and pretty close to that student, and he was in my student government class, and those are the types of things that you remember is trying to help him and his younger brother through this. And there was a teacher at Granite Bay High School now. He used to be here. His name's Steve Fisher, and Debbie Noyes, who was a science teacher here and at Granite Bay High School. And we used to run the Yosemite Institute and take students to Yosemite and every year. And student's name was Will, and he was part of that program. And so after this happened, Mr. Fisher and I took Will and his brother and a couple of his friends on a little backpacking excursion over that summer, just to help try to heal and to get them prepared to take off for college and things like that. But those are the personal events that happen that stick with you for a long, long time, and were challenging. But as principal, those other two things. But they're every day, and these are things that certainly I can't talk about. Life happens, so things happen to students and their families. Things happen to parents. Things happen to my teaching staff and the rest of the staff, and we deal with those. And those aren't things that everybody sees, but there are times in which there are people who are hurting, and we have to help them get through it.
So beyond the stats, beyond the daily grind of being principal, there are the other personal issues that you have to deal with for students and parents.
Yeah, we talk about student achievement, and we want all of you guys to leave here ready to take on that next challenge. But we're in a people business, and so if we don't have relationships, then that's part of the formula. It's about rigor, and it's about relevance. That's the learning aspect of it, but it's also about the relationships.
And now, another part of the formula, so to speak, was for addressing program improvement. A couple of years ago, there was the intervention program pause, and that was widely seen from teachers and students. That teachers ended up voting it down. So there were some of those things as well. Can you talk about that?
Goodness, I hope that's not what I'm remembered for. Sometimes you make some mistakes. The intention was pure, and I still believe in embedded intervention. I still believe that we need to find ways to provide extra time and support for students who are struggling. The mistake was that maybe we went too fast, too soon, and that professional development was missing in terms of how do we differentiate, how do we meet the needs of students who are at so many different levels. And when I have them for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever the time was that we pulled them out for embedded intervention, and I've got students at different levels, how do I manage that? So it became more of a management issue more than anything. It wasn't that it wasn't the right thing to do. We just weren't prepared for it. And so I pushed for it pretty hard because, again, I thought it was the right thing to do. But in hindsight, we just approached it the wrong way. And so there may be a time in which the staff is ready to look at embedded intervention again and find ways to help kids. But right now, we're not there yet. And then part of it is because we're going through this transition to the Common Core, and we're not exactly sure what the curriculum is going to look like yet and what the assessments are going to look like. The other part of it is we've started to find other ways to embed some of that intervention. The freshman course of study is one way of embedding interventions, meeting students where they're at and having teachers who are focused on the students' progress all year long and supporting them all year long. And then we have AVID that goes through 12th grade, and we have Positive Power class, and we have Tiger Tutoring Center, and so we're finding different avenues to try to fill that gap.
And we've talked a little bit about we've kind of hit on how your legacy will look after you leave. So what do you want your legacy to look like? I mean, if you could shape it, how would you shape your legacy?
I'm not the person to answer that question, I don't think. I am moving to the district office. I am going to continue to support Roseville High School as well as the other schools in the district. And I'm going to be focused on trying to do what's best for our students and also supporting our teachers, our counselors, our coaches. So that's what my focus is going to be. In terms of legacy, I still have probably 15 more years in education, and I hope to spend all of those in this district. So my legacy will be determined by the families, the students, the staff that I work with, and what they recall, and it'll be about their thoughts and feelings. And it's not something I think about. Every day I go about, is this the right thing to do for this student or this situation?
One of the phrases we've gotten we've talked to teachers about what they think your legacy will be here at Roseville, and one of the phrases thrown around was students first. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's one of my guiding principles, and certainly I think that's what we're here for. I mean, if you're here for a different purpose, you're in the wrong profession.
Now, you're headed to the district. You're going to be the director of personnel services, and you hinted earlier that you would like to be superintendent someday. Do you see that in your future?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's my goal. But I'm not viewing this next step, director position, as a short-term step. I'm not. If it happens, it happens. Along the way, somebody has always let me know that it's time to start looking at that next position. You're ready, or your school is ready. And so the director position is what I'm focused on. And then there'll be a time and a place when it'll feel right to look at an assistant superintendency, and then there'll be a time and a place to look at a superintendency. But I'm not going to force the issue. I'm not going to push the issue. But yeah, that's my long-term goal. I'd like to be a superintendent, and I would love to be superintendent in this district. I love this community. I love Roseville.
And what would a Superintendent Basham do on your first day?
On my first day, I think that I'm going to say my first day, opening day, and my first opening day would be that I want to make sure that I would get around to every site, that I check in with every principal, and see what's happening on their school sites, what their priorities are, and visit the campuses and just get a feel, because you can stand on a campus like at lunchtime and you just get a sense of what this camp is about. You hear students talking, and you hear what they're into, and you see whether or not they're wearing the school colors, and whether or not there's that pride, and you can hear the buzz. And so I think it's just being visible and getting out and visiting each of the campuses, and making sure that the principals and the staff at those sites know that I'm there to support them and to serve them.
Now, what is the feeling, I'm curious, when you stand on our campus? What is the feeling you get? Just, if you're standing out on Campo Street, for instance, during lunch?
I think it's very positive. I really do. And I hear students talking about just having great conversations with their friends, and sometimes that's school-centered, sometimes it's around athletics, sometimes it's about, junior prom this weekend. Sometimes it's just about what they're doing over the weekend, or the NCAA tournament, or whatever it happens to be. But students are having great conversations. And the other thing is, I think that our student body is very accepting of each other, and they're kind to each other for the most part. And I think that speaks highly about our student body. They accept diversity, and part of that has to do, I think, with student government and with peer helping and with our teachers in terms of the tone that they've set and the expectations they've set. And I feel very comfortable on our campus, and I think that our students are very kind. I get constantly, when we have visitors, one of the first things they say to me is, "Your students are so nice, they're so helpful," and I'm proud of that.
Now, shifting gears a little bit, so you'll be leaving in July. Now, do you know at all who will be the next principal here at Roseville?
Oh, absolutely not. They've opened up the position. It's been advertised, and I think that April 22nd is the deadline for candidates to apply. There will be a couple of focus groups led, probably by Mr. Severson, our new superintendent, or Mr. Williams. And basically, they want to meet with the staff, and they want to meet with students, and they want to meet with parents, and they want to find out what it is that the student body and the parents and the staff want in their next principal. What's important to them? That information will be shared with the candidates, and it'll be part of developing the questions for the interviews. And then there will be an extensive interview process in which we will have probably two panels. One that is more focused on with student activities and athletics and school culture, that will be made up primarily of students and parents, and probably coaches, activities directors, that aspect. And the other aspect would probably be more on leadership and curriculum and instruction, and those aspects, and probably have some department coordinators, counselors, classified personnel like secretaries, maybe administrator, and the candidates will have to interview with both panels. And so then we compare, what do the students think about this particular candidate? What do the parents think? What do the teachers think? And then what will happen is they'll probably take the top 2, 3, 4 candidates, and they'll do a second round of interviews, and that'll be held at the district office level. And the ultimate decision is going to be Mr. Severson's decision. He's the superintendent. He selects the principals. And but it won't be done without the input of the Roseville community. And that comes from those focus groups, as well as what comes out of those 2 rounds of interviews. And they'll do an extensive background check as well. So if it's an in-house candidate, we'll know them fairly well, whether it's somebody who's working within the district. But if it's someone from outside the district, they'll make contact with that school and maybe even do a visit and just question some of the ask questions of the students and the staff at that school, just to say, what about this person? How do they connect with students? What do they know about athletics? Are they an instructional leader? And get some firsthand knowledge before making the final decision.
And I know you have no idea who it will be, but do you have any idea of how likely it could be someone from this campus?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. There are strong candidates throughout the district as well as outside the district, and so I have no idea. And you know, I sat in on the panel, did the original interviews for the Granite Bay High School principal, and they were all strong candidates, and so it was not an easy process for anybody. But as you start to have these conversations and you have all of these groups interviewing and talking and you get the different perspectives, there were a couple of candidates that rose to the top after we went through those interviews, and they were the ones that were invited back for that second round. And so it's a great process that they've come up with.
So now, what do you think when we do know who the principal will be? What do you think you'll tell that next principal? What would you tell them as they come into Roseville?
Listen. Listen to your teachers. Listen to your students. Listen to your parents. Don't try to change everything overnight. There's some things that we're very proud of, and so find out those things that we are proud of and try to reinforce and strengthen those programs, and then find out where we do have a need, where those gaps are, what are the things that are unfinished, those things that can make Roseville High School even better, and put your efforts there. And so you know, it's a matter of go slow to go fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So. And
do you think it's unique at all being principal of a school that's now more than 100 years old?
Yes, and the reason for that is twofold. It's a combination of trying to honor the rich history, the tradition, and the multi-generational families that are connected to Roseville High School. At the same time, embracing what's new and trying to blend those two worlds. So whether it's new construction and modernization, or bringing in technology and Wi-Fi, or families that have moved here from outside the Roseville area who are new to the area, who don't have the 100 years of history, and trying to balance that with also this tradition. So there are certainly times to make changes, but at the same time you don't want to do that without knowing where you came from.
Do you think that history could play a part in who the next principal will be? Do you think that they'll be looking a bit into, you know, their connections to Roseville?
You know, I certainly hope that whomever the next principal is, well, certainly I hope that the candidates do their homework, and I think that becomes abundantly clear in the interview process as to whether or not they know a little bit about Roseville. And so someone who comes from the inside sometimes does have a little bit of a leg up, but then there's also some great candidates who bring in some ideas from outside the district as well, that may be something that we've never thought of that was successful wherever they came from, that may be worth looking at.
All right, I want to thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, Daniel.
Best of luck to you.
It's been a great 4 years.